I used to believe money was a kind of insurance against regret. Not happiness exactly, but protection, a buffer, something that would soften the harder edges of life when they eventually came for me. At 81, sitting in a house that's far too quiet for its size, I can finally admit how wrong I was. My name is Robert. I'm 81 years old and I have more money than I ever imagined as a young man. On paper, my life looks like a success story. Businesses that worked, investments that grew, decisions that paid off. People still introduce me as very accomplished, and I nod politely because correcting them would take too long. I didn't grow up wealthy. That's important. I grew up watching my parents worry about bills, watching small problems turn into big ones simply because there wasn't enough money to contain them. Somewhere along the way, I made a quiet promise to myself that I would never live like that, and I kept that promise completely. In my 30s, I worked constantly, not dramatically, not heroically, just constantly. Long days, longer nights, weekends that blurred into weekdays. I told myself I was being responsible. I told myself I was building freedom. And every year the numbers got bigger, which felt like proof that I was right. My wife used to joke that I was always almost home. I'd say I was on my way, just one more call, one more meeting, one more thing to handle. I meant it every time. That's the part people don't understand. I wasn't lying. I just kept choosing the next obligation over the moment in front of me. The house got nicer. The cars got quieter. Vacations became more expensive and somehow less memorable. I paid for comfort so efficiently that I didn't notice what it was replacing. Conversations became shorter. Laughter became scheduled. Affection turned polite. When my children were young, I believed I was doing all of this for them. I believed they would understand someday. And they do, in a way. They're grateful, respectful, successful themselves. But gratitude is not closeness, and respect is not intimacy. Those things are built differently. They require time you don't get back. There's a moment I think about often. My daughter was in her early 20s. We were sitting across from each other at a very nice restaurant. She looked at me and said calmly, "You know, I don't really know you." She didn't say it angrily. That's what made it hurt. She said it like a fact she'd finally organized. I laughed it off at the time. I made a joke. I paid the bill. But something in me shifted that night, just slightly, like a hairline crack you don't notice until years later, when the wall starts to fail. As I got older, the urgency never really left. Even when I had more than enough, I kept acting like I didn't. I kept protecting what no longer needed protection. Money stopped being a tool and became a habit, a reflex, a language I was fluent in when my emotional vocabulary remained limited. Then my wife got sick. Suddenly, time behaved differently. The same hours that once felt too small stretched out uncomfortably. I was present then, fully present. I sat beside her, I listened, I held her hand, and I realized, with a kind of quiet horror, that this was the first time in decades I'd given my full attention to another human being without thinking about what came next. She never blamed me. She thanked me for the life we had. She told me I'd done well, and I would have traded every compliment, every dollar, every achievement for one more ordinary afternoon from years earlier when we still had time to waste. After she passed, the house didn't feel luxurious anymore. It felt oversized, echoed, maintained for no one. The things I once believed money would protect me from showed up anyway. Loneliness doesn't care about net worth. Regret doesn't check bank balances. Now, people ask me if it was worth it. I never know how to answer. The money works. It does what money is supposed to do. It keeps things running smoothly. But it doesn't fill silence. It doesn't rewind conversations. It doesn't sit with you at night when your mind starts reviewing choices you can no longer edit. If I've learned anything at 81, it's this: wealth can buy comfort, but it cannot buy meaning. And meaning is what you reach for when everything else is already handled. I'm not saying money is useless. I'm saying it's incomplete. It solves problems, but it doesn't answer questions. And the older you get, the more questions you have. So if you're building something right now, chasing security, stacking success carefully like proof of a life well lived, I won't tell you to stop. I only want you to notice what you're trading along the way. Because one day, you may find yourself wealthy beyond measure, sitting very comfortably, asking yourself why it all feels so thin. And by then, money will have nothing left to say.